Now we shift focus to what makes AI technology transformation successful in enterprises, exploring key factors like aligning AI with business goals, cross-team collaboration, scalable infrastructure, and building AI literacy. Our final panel is proudly powered by Artificial Intelligence of Hong Kong, AIHK, and our honor speakers will be discussing on the topic, Differentiators in a Successful AI Tech Transformation for Enterprises. Moderating this panel is Ms. Martha Leung, VP of Sales at D2 Intelligence and co-chair of the Public Sector Committee, AIHK. Martha, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for your introduction. And welcome, everyone. Welcome and good afternoon to the AIHK panel discussion on differentiators on successfully implementing AI for enterprises. Right now, I'm going to introduce our speaker for today on the panel. First of all, we have Kanth Kolluru. He's an AIHK co-chair for Logistics and Transportation Committee. He's also head of IT infrastructure and IT security at Pacific Basin. He's driving digital change in the shipping segment. And then next, we have Brian Chen, AIHK of co-chair for Banking and Finance Committee, senior director at FTI Consulting, advising financial institutions in implementing AI transformation. Next off, we have Billy Yeung, AIHK board observer, Director of IT Strategy, AI, and Data Governance at Prudential. He's spearheading enterprise AI initiative in a highly regulated space. Lastly, we have Ankit Suri. He's an AIHK founding team and board member, co-founder and CEO of Planto, which is a very useful app in case you guys haven't downloaded it yet. So without further ado, I want to first ask everyone in the audience, how many of you are using AI on your day-to-day work? Can I see some hands? And how many of you guys are using it based on a solution that your company has deployed? Not that many hands are up. I think the main reason for that is because there's a lot of people using AI, but it's not really heavily regulated, and there's a lot of hurdles and challenges in implementing it as a corporate. So we'll dive right into our first segment, is aligning AI with business value. Let's target at the strategic level first. So there's a lot of excitement around AI, but as you know, implementing AI will be a struggle, and it doesn't really align with business purpose. So here's our first question. How can organizations make sure AI is truly aligned with business goals and not just driven by hype or by tech? We'll go with Ken first.
First of all, it depends on the industry and where you are with your data and tech transformation. For a legacy and traditional industry, it starts with the data transformation journey. A lot of the data is either unstructured or it exists in format that needs a lot of transformation before it's ready for AI. Throwing in tech will definitely disappoint the initial stages. So it's important to be very clear about what sort of AI are we implementing. Is it the productivity AI on the user front, or is it the enterprise AI? When we talk about productivity AI, these are the typical Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT kind of tools that help the user on a day-to-day basis. These cater to the productivity enhancement of the workforce and take care of their individual tasks that are different from the enterprise or the department use cases. When we switch to the other track, which is the enterprise AI, that's precisely where you need to have your data estate or data lake clean. Typically, what happens is the information flows in for a lot of the traditional industries in just the email format, and it's exchanged back and forth in unstructured format like PDF and documents. First things first, it's important to build a data lake and absorb that information and conduct a thorough POC to validate the cleanliness of the data, and also run an extended POC program across the board within the department and also between different departments to ensure the efficiency and sanctity of the workflow. That's precisely where you start the journey and have an iterative process of ensuring that the POC is successful.
Thank you. I think that's a topic we'll dive into later, POCs and how does it go into implementation stage. Next, we'll have Brian to take off the question.
Yeah, definitely. So I think in terms of the critical success factor to integrate the AI into core strategy involves basically a huge attention in the regulatory framework. From our past projects with our clients, we see two different success factors. The first one is the organizations needs to assess the risk very systematically, and second is to operationalize the risk. So once we are able to evaluate the risk systematically, then would be able to make the applications into the production very easily.
Thank you. Billy?
Yeah, I think adopting AI is like a parent buying a toy for their kid. So if you just buy a toy for their kid, most likely he or she will not use it unless he or she really wants to play the toy, right? So I think number one is within our organization, we need to talk to our users to understand the pain point and really, what sort of strategy that they want to build and what sort of things that AI can do for them and sort of align that pain point and strategy with AI. So that's number one. And number two is to help them to define the value that the AI can bring for the business. And then systematically checking this value so that we can measure success, evaluate the tool, and also reiterate, right? And at the end of the day, if we can measure the success or the value, we definitely want to celebrate small wins because small wins can actually deliver big impact.
Thank you. So we have Ankit.
Yeah, I actually echo with Billy. So let me speak from a startup perspective here. I think when we were starting our AI transformation journey, the idea for us was really about how do we build AI innovation within the company that can impact our business clients. We are in the business of selling software and AI transformation solutions to financial institutions and fintechs out there. But what we realized very quickly when we started experimenting with AI is that you have to be extremely domain specific to get it right. So you could be playing around with these generic sort of tools like large language models, using it for your own workflows. But if you really want to drive an enterprise use case, you really got to understand the domain. So the realization that we had was that we got to look inward first and make sure that we solve our own problems before we go out there and take it to enterprise and financial institutions out there. So even within a small company like ours, what we realized very quickly is that actually we've got a lot of different teams who actually are actually doing the same kind of work that happens even in large organizations. We've got a finance team, we've got a small HR team, we've got a communications team, we've got a team of developers, we've got a team of designers, we've got a team of business development people, team of partnerships people. And so what we did was we created this whole democratic kind of culture within the company where we essentially allowed everyone the ability to document exactly what they are doing and what they would love for AI to be able to do. And we backed that up with a team of somewhat developers, who can help them bring that to life. And once we started doing that, what we also realized very quickly is that what AI has done is that it has reduced the cost of actually building MVPs. And so if an HR person who basically now has an issue when it comes to finding relevant candidates for our jobs, if they're documenting the exact workflows that they are following, that's where our team of developers are now helping them build that MVP, which could look like an AI agent or even some sort of CV screening solution or whatever. And within a matter of days, we are able to prove the ROI for this kind of innovation. And so our strategy has been that let's solve our problems inwards, because likely enterprises around us, small or large, have the same problems across different teams. And so if we can solve for ourselves, we can bring it for a bigger impact for all the other enterprises out there as well.
Cannot agree more. I think having a domain-specific model really helps a lot of enterprises out there. I do have a follow-up question for Billy. So at Prudential, you were talking about mapping out the pain points, and then from the pain points, you guys would drive to deploying AI solutions. So how well has this been working out for you guys? I mean, it's such a complex and big organization.
Oh yeah, it's it's really an ongoing and improving process because initially we saw we tried to set up a AI cadence, right? Bring all the teams together. We have about over 70 people to join, and we found that it's not quite effective. So we then turn into how do we share the cases, share the success story first, and then people can start to realize what sort of benefit the AI can bring them. And then we try to tackle them, talk to them, on a department-to-department basis, and really try to focus on their problems and pain point. And then it actually works out well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's I think, thank you for sharing. I think that's really great for most of the startups out there to know what enterprises are looking for. So the second segment, we want to talk about, so we talked about strategy earlier, and now we want to talk about execution. So how does making AI system work in practice, especially at scale? So here's the question. What does it really take to build AI systems that scale across infrastructure, data, and operating models? I'll have Ankit take this first.
Yeah, so I think when we think about AI solutioning, from our perspective, what we do is we kind of split a project in kind of three phases. The first phase is what we call an MVP phase. The second phase being a PMF discovery, which means is it actually achieving the business outcome that it's supposed to achieve, and then you move towards scaling. At this stage of MVP, it's really about developer velocity for us, which means that we are trying to use sort of AI models which are pre-trained. So we are using Hugging Face models. We are using pre-trained LLM models like OpenAI or any of these sort of pre-trained models, and then we are sort of deploying managed services on top like Superbase, or using no-code tools to deploy the UI UX to be able to use the models out there. When we start moving towards the pre-PMF phase and the PMF phase, that's where we start to tweak the way we think about model selections and the way we are managing the infrastructure. And so when we move towards more pre-PMF phase, we start looking at, well, do we need to fine-tune these models now? So can we move towards more open source models and therefore start fine-tuning them? On the infrastructure side, can we start to go from self-managed to maybe self-hosted? Because now we are starting to realize the ROI of it. I think the interesting thing about scaling AI is that, and this is a KPI that we are starting to look at very closely when we are looking at scaling some of these models, is that we are tracking the marginal cost that it takes for every kind of user outcome that we are trying to achieve with AI. And thereafter, when we start to measure that marginal cost, we start to realize where exactly is the cost lying as compared to the returns that it's giving. So if the cost of let's say interference is extremely high, we then want to move down to a smaller size model. So that's where we tweak, based on what we realize is happening based on what we are seeing in terms of how AI is scaling. The other thing which is pretty interesting is that when you're scaling AI, you are actually building a big moat for yourself as a company and for your AI model, because you're starting to realize how are users using it. And so in software world, you used to have this thing called test cases. In the world of AI, you have this thing called evals. So what you are doing now is that you're starting to really understand how are users using your AI, and you're using that as a way to further enhance the prompt so that you can reduce the hallucination. Effectively, what we are trying to do is to create multiple PhDs to do that effective use case that end users are using extremely well. And that's how, that's where the focus for us shifts towards when we start to scale.
Thank you. So it all comes down to ROIs. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Billy, do you have some?
Yeah. So for Prudential, basically we look at data, because data is the foundation for using AI, right? And we actually have a lot of legacy systems. We have a legacy system that are like over 20 years old. So you can imagine we have a lot of fragmented data. So that's not very useful for AI. So we're not sure about, the data definition, poor data quality, who's the owner of this data, right? So number one is we try to have a unified data platform, bring all these fragmented data into one single source so that we can better use the AI. Now with this unified data platform, we then set up a governance model. So we have a data governance team and also an AI governance team to ensure that now we have this unified data platform. How do we sort of standardize our data so that we can better use it? And that actually is a requirement for our AIs to scale out.
Yes, that's very important. As an AI training an AI model using AI, deploying AI project, garbage in, garbage out. So data will be the first step. What about Brian?
Yeah, so I think in scaling AI, the agile development framework is a key success to it. I'm a little bit biased because for myself, I'm also a certified Scrum Master, so I always apply agile method when I do project management. But I want to share like 3 cases that I observe from the industries. One case from Scotiabank, the other case from JP Morgan, and the third case from ING Bank. The scale of the adoption of AI is from small to large. And what we see are like 3 different patterns. The first one we call the digital factory model. The middle-sized one called the platform and product model. And the third one is called the enterprise-wide agile model. So in the small enterprise model, like the digital factory model, is exactly what Scotiabank adopted when it first started its AI journey. Scotiabank has like 10 to 15 cross-functional agile teams. In each agile team, there are specialists in different areas, like front-end developers, back-end developers, and also regulatory compliance experts, etc. Each agile team is like a self-functioning team that can deliver a product. They have different teams for specific product functions, like one team develops a specific button or function at the front end of the website. The other team handles that kind of like customer journey. When the teams collaborate together, they move quick and they will be able to transform the organizations very quickly. When the company moves into a medium size of agile adoption, like JP Morgan, what we see is a kind of product and platform model. They have the product agile team that handles like products that the customers or the users can visualize. And they have the platform agile team that handles the back-end service, like maintaining the platform stability and also like enhancing the speed of the back-end functions. When these 2 groups collaborate with each other, then it's more suitable for medium-sized corporation. And lastly, if you have the large-scale AI adoption, you need like 80% of the organization to be in agile team. Many people think that agile developments only applies to software developments, but it's actually not. Let's say if you want to develop a investment product in a bank, although it's not software related, but you can still apply the same methodology into the development of an investment product. So actually, the success story of ING Bank, where they have like 80% of the organization adopted the agile scaling methodologies. There is a disclaimer that these are not confidential information of my clients, but they are like publicly available information. So we always put the confidentiality of our clients at the first place. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm sold on agile method. So let's go to Kanth.
So when we talk about build for scale, the first thing that I'd like to bring to attention is when you need to plan for scalability, you need to decide what sort of industry that you're handling and what sort of regulations it is. Because the first step is, are you going cloud or do you want to build in-house? When you have the option of going to cloud, then it's a different story. It's an inference-based model. There could be optimization. Once you have the comprehensive list of all the use cases across the business lines, you can build a unified data lake and use a combination of whatever best is the models that are available. If it's a multi-model application or a single model, depending upon that, you can use an inference model, have a single deployment, and have multiple use cases inferring the same model. That's on the cloud side. And beyond that, obviously, you will need the ecosystem of in-house expertise to handle the data transition as well as managing the data. And one important thing to remember is identify the roadmap for the next 12 to 24 months. Because once you go cloud and you build your data lake on the cloud and you use the models deployed on the cloud, at that point of time, your cost should not creep up so much that beyond 12 to 24 months, the TCO is so much that it does not justify in terms of the ROI. Now, that's on if you're on the cloud. Let's say that you're a highly regulated industry and you got to build everything in-house. These use cases are far and few, but they do exist pretty much, I would say. So for that, you need to build either go for a hyperscaler model or you would need to build that infrastructure, required infrastructure in the on-premise environment. Of course, you would still need to build the data lake and have the sources. But one important calculation that you need to do is you need to verify where are you with your overall digital and IT transformation over the years. Are you all in-house or are you hybrid cloud? Are you on multi-cloud? Because this will decide how much costs are you going to incur getting all those data sources just for the POC to make another copy. This is one thing that's different for different companies. So it's very important to assess this case-by-case basis and evaluate how much capacity do you need if it's on-premise, and accordingly calculate the TCO and plan for the scalability and also for future maintenance. These are all from the infrastructure and capacity perspective. But then maintaining the quality of the data is a different ballgame. Again, this is depending upon the industry, how the data is entered, and it gets into the data lake. In some traditional industries, still the data is manually entered, and hence you got to rely on the accuracy of the person entering it. So when we look at scalability, scalability should be something that should actually be successful down the lane. For that, it's very important to build this ecosystem of keeping the data clean. And so it's just not about the capacity, but it's also about the entire ecosystem that can run it beyond the POC for a longer time.
Thank you for that. But I have a follow-up question on that. So doing the whole project on-prem and all of that, is there any challenges with purchasing hardware, the GPU? Where is that going to come from? I mean, at this moment in Hong Kong, in this special region?
There are options now if anybody's attended the recent events from some of the hardware vendors. So the GPUs are slowly moving towards the high-performing CPU options. Again, like I said, if you want to build everything in-house, those use cases are lesser. But you also have Cyberport offering GPU as a service. So there are options where you can rent GPUs to train your data, create a model, and but again, that relies on building this whole infrastructure. If you are not getting those required GPUs or the servers with GPUs, then you got to rent out GPUs to train and build a model, which will also include, again, you would only do that if you're a regulated industry. That means you got to plan for the connectivity as well. And you're now talking about the network expansion of beyond your in-house to the GPU environment. And that whole ecosystem is now adding one more node of complexity and monitoring.
Thank you for that. So we've talked about strategy, we talked about execution, infrastructure. Now I want to talk about people. So my next question would be, what role do culture, trust, and collaboration play in determining the success or failure in AI adoption?
I think first things first, we got to stop looking at it like a digital transformation where it's all driven at a business level. You create an application which is supposed to be like an ERP. catering to all the use cases across the business units. Because there's no tangible, in some cases, it's not as obvious as a digital transformation where you have a tangible output immediately during the POCs of either an application or a mobile app. That's typically what digital transformation POC initially can spit out. But when it comes to AI, it requires an extended and prolonged partnership between the AI or digital transformation teams and the users. Now, how do you do that? First, we have to stop assuming that whatever enterprise level use cases are sufficient enough down to the bottom level. So each user operates differently within a department itself. We can talk about how each department talks to one another, but within the same department, each user's individual way of working is different, irrespective of the industry. So what we need to do is, within departments, you need to identify champion users with different personas. These champion users reflect in that department the different responsibilities that they have. Hence, you have a comprehensive list of use cases that cater to the overall AI POC, which actually involves partnering them in that initiative. Because you're preparing them and you're making them an AI-ready workforce, but you can only do that by involving them and extending the level of involvement from the user base. For that, you need to actually identify, work with the senior management. It has to be a top-down approach, get to the bottom layer, identify change managers or champion users across different personas, and work with them to thoroughly conduct a POC that's actually meaningful to every one of them.
Thank you so much. So change management will be one of the key factors here. Let me take it to Brian.
Yeah, so I think the major key factor is what we call the test and learn mindset. Because let's say, for example, a lot of people, they are in the industry for a very long time already. Some of them may be reluctant to change and learn new technologies. But that's not a good culture in the AI sector, because we know the AI sector is always changing. Technologies like 3 months ago may be already outdated already. So I also am aware of 3 industry examples that illustrates what companies have exemplified the test and learn mindset in their own organizations. The first example is Roche, the pharmaceutical company. So they have launched some kind of learning or education camp for the top 1,000 senior leaders in their company to learn collaborative or experimental techniques, and also AI applications, like drug discovery optimization, these kind of advanced techniques. And then the experiments, or after the learning camp, the company discovered that within 6 months, 95% of the participants launch agile experiments in their own team, versus to maybe around 20% that they have anticipated before the learning camp. So these kind of leadership-driven culture has really shaped the AI or change culture that can lead to successful AI implementation in the company. The second example is a Middle East retail company called Majid Al Futtaim. So what they have done is they have launched a campaign or a platform called the School of Analytics and Technology for the 40,000 employees in the company. So with all the AI and also transformative analytics contents inside, they found that all the staff has adopted the AI skills and make better prompting techniques when they interact with the AI agents. And then lastly, the example is on the DBS Bank. What DBS done is they have launched a campaign called the 30,000 employee startup. campaign. So they treat the whole company, although it's a very large company, they treat it as a 30,000 employee startup company. They have organized like corporate academy, hackathons, and also like data translator competitions, trainings inside the company with over 5,000 employees in total. And this boosted the engagement of the employees to AI applications by around 6%. And also the employee retention by 40% by using these kind of new AI-driven prediction analytics. So in summary, I think that test and learn mindset, continuous learning mindset is very important in shaping a good AI adoption company. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think that really touched a lot of startups, and to know that these corporates are taking it so seriously into implementing AI. To you, Billy?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess number one is we really need to cultivate the culture. So at Prudential, what we have done is initially we launched a series of online training available for everyone. And then we start to attract them and, hey, come to learn about more AI, right? And what we have done is we offer them free lunch. So we offer them lunch and learn, monthly lunch and learn. Believe it or not, with free lunch, people will join and actually start to pay attention and listen. So with that, we start to cultivate their culture and let them know what AI can do for them. And then we shift their mindset from embedding AI into everyday work. So we start giving them tools that they can use. We've built in an in-house sort of like ChatGPT, so they can use it and then help them solve their problems, inquiries, in a second, right? So that's how we shift their mindset, become more AI friendly. And we also set up a collaboration with Google. We also set up an AI lab, which is basically a place for employees to submit ideas, turn ideas. It's a sandbox environment for them to turn ideas into, a proof of concept, a prototype. So we have done that as well. So with that, then it turns into the next step, which is with more transparency of the tools they're using, it starts trusting the tools that they're using. And that's how we basically lead them to adopt AI.
Thank you. So transparency and trust are key for Prudential and the free lunch. And Ankit,
Yeah, I think when it comes to AI adoption, like at least from a tech company's perspective, I think I think the hypothesis that we had when we started building AI products is that AI adoption is built into, it's just the nature of the technology. I think OpenAI's adoption is the fastest ever in the history of technology. Undoubtedly, I think every time an LLM product is launched, it's just people really want to try it. I think one of the biggest problem statements that is coming out is actually retention and churn for a lot of large language model products out there. So people are extremely excited to try it out. So I think the realization that we had when we started thinking about productizing AI is that it's not about a smarter AI, it's actually about accountable AI. So just like in the software world, you got to think about user experience. I think in the AI world, what we started looking at is what does a user really want from an AI perspective. So just as an example, Planto, Martha spoke about this app that we have in the market, which is a personal finance focused app. So when we thought about launching a chatbot for our users that can help them get insights on their finances, what we realized very quickly is that they are looking for explainability. Why are you telling me this, right? From their perspective, it was a lot about just because you have spent here, we think that you are probably at the risk of maybe defaulting on your loans, right? So explainability to them was extremely important for them to continue using that bot, right? So that was built into the way we were thinking about prompt engineering as well as the design of the bot itself, right? Secondly, consumers absolutely hate the fact that if an AI is telling them to do something that they can't, like from a governance perspective as well, they don't want to just blindly look at it. From their perspective, they want to be able to almost overpower it. So they might be like, this is incorrect. And so we had to build in feedback cycle because an AI needs to adapt. And so that adaptability is something that we built into it. So I think explainability and adaptability is what we found out was extremely important for AI adoption when we thought about products. Bottom line, I think different kind of customer segments, whether that's enterprise or end users, they will have different expectations. But it's important to figure out what does that look like and build that into the design of your product.
Thank you, Ankit. So this brings me to the next question. So we've all talked about how we can successfully deploy AI from POC stage. But what have been the biggest challenge? Because everybody knows there's a lot of POCs being done in the market. Over 95% of them don't make it to the next stage. So what's the biggest challenge for each of you? Starting with Ankit, when you face your clients, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, we have been doing POCs with with a lot of financial institutions since our existence in the last 7 years. And you're absolutely right. Most of them don't actually move towards production. And here's a learning which I think is not very AI specific actually. It's just generic for POCs, which is, I think when you think about a POC, it's important to identify what are all the risks that particular product or project has for it to go to production, and address that as part of the scope of POCs. We have made that mistake where we would only try and figure that one thing out during POC, and then as we move towards the end stages of the POC, we found there were a few stakeholders, who had various kind of risks that we actually couldn't really, solve it within POC, and that became a big blocker for us. So I think now when we think about POCs, we actually spend quite a significant amount of time at the beginning, at the inception of the POC, actually talking and mapping out to various stakeholders, whether that's IT, whether that's business or various kind of functions out there, and trying to anticipate, what kind of risks exist with what we are trying to do as a pilot. And once we understand that, we kind of build that as part of the POC. And so that by the end of it, we have very clear success criteria in place. And as long as we are able to clearly prove them through the POC itself, then it hopefully gives sort of low chances for the POC to move into production. So that's kind of what our learning has been and what we are doing in our future POCs as well.
Thank you. So it's on risk assessment on the sustainability of the POC or the actual project.
Yeah.
Okay. So Billy, I want to learn about Prudential actually.
Yeah, so basically, like Ankit said, it's not the AI tool itself, but it's really the way of how we manage the project. And I agree with Brian 100% because at Prudential, we also take the Agile methodology because initially when we start to roll out AI project, we didn't do it in the Agile way. And we started to think about what goes wrong, right? And then we actually have every single one of our employees to have that Agile training, because we believe that the Agile is not here just for the project, but also like product management, product development, right? It also works. So we start taking the Agile methodology to implement for our AI project. And we start to, develop things in sprints so that we can have regular sprint reviews to make sure that we have more checkpoints, more communications with stakeholders before we go into the next step. That actually help us actually increase the chance of turning the POC into production.
Okay, thank you. Right back to you.
Yeah, so from our past projects, I think there are two different points where we see the biggest challenge. The first one is echoing with Ankit's point, is the model explainability. And that controls the user's trust to the AI model. Second part is about the regulatory concern of the AI tools. On the trust and also model explainability, we use something called the sharply additive values, or we call it sharp value. It's a mathematical construct that can kind of hint why the AI model makes such a decision. And it explains, like, for example, in one of our past projects, it's a transaction monitoring project of a financial institutions. So let's say, for example, if the AI agent flags, oh, this transaction is a fraud, that transaction is not a fraud. The model explainability helps the user to understand whether the flag is coming from, oh, high amount of this transaction or very frequent transaction. The user tends to accept this kind of explanation and tend to trust the tool more. And it's also a essential element in presenting the solution to the regulators. Because if the regulators not approve it, the tool cannot be used in internal controls. In terms of regulation, for financial institutions, let's say, for example, HKMA has a sandbox for the financial institutions to test their AI tools well at the beginning when it is in the POC stage in an environment that helps to identify potential regulatory problem. And there is also a dedicated channel, a chat channel between the financial institutions and HKMA. The financial institutions can just chat with HKMA, let them involve at the very beginning of the project to identify any risks in the project. That's very important because I actually do see some cases where the financial institution spends a lot of time and money in developing one solution. And at the 2 weeks before the go live date, they suddenly find out a critical regulatory concern and the product cannot be launched eventually. So involve the regulators very early stage. That's also very important tips.
Thank you. I also agree. I think that's the HKMA sandbox is really helping the financial institution to deploy more Gen AI solutions. So, Kanth, I want to hear about shipping industry. How do you guys go about it?
I can generally talk about why POCs fail. Now, if you're talking about POC in the context of buying ChatGPT license, no, that's not an AI project. You're just buying ChatGPT to test yourself. But the second thing is, I think it's a mindset. I already talked about inclusivity, catering to multiple users, personas, use cases, and all of that. But where POCs actually take a detour is understanding the difference between where AI fits in, where RPA comes in, and where is it essential to have a data analytics dashboard. Of course, the precursor to all of this is to have a clean data lake. But once you do that, sometimes it's a combination of AI plus RPA plus a dashboard or an application. So there are 3 different variables here. However, when we look at it from an AI transformation POC perspective, we tend to approach it that everything is AI, hence the wrong expectation is set. We're not even talking about the cases where the use cases are not taken into account. The use cases are taken into account, but the expectation is not correct. Because what you're trying to do is build a complete AI agent without having a clarity on how much of that is actually AI, having your due diligence done during the POC phases of making sure that you identify the part of the solution that's RPA, followed by the AI integration. That's one reason. The other reason is obviously data issues. The data that is built for POC is not built for scale. And precisely when you step outside the POC phase, you're looking at results that are not satisfactory. So it's very important to take care of the data quality of your data lake. And last but not the least, I think it's quite essential to consider the concept of change management, because just within a span of 6 months, if you've seen, I don't want to promote Microsoft here, but I'm just taking the name. October, there was a Microsoft event. Satya Nadella spoke about tokens being a currency and all of that. Bam, DeepSeek comes in. Everybody's forgotten about tokens. Now they're talking about a different concept altogether. And today, a couple of weeks back in the Microsoft Build event, the narrative is different. So is the Google event also. It's talking on a different scale. In just 6 months, the models have evolved so much. But did we actually understand what we are supposed to do when we have to switch from a lower efficient model to a higher efficient model. That requires a thorough understanding of how these vector databases work, how are we pre-processing and post-processing data, how the grounding happens. So these finer details are quite essential. And also, you need to consider, again, we had the topic around whether you would go cloud or on-premise. So managing that platform and ensuring that it's accurate and built for scale, this is something that there's a gap in understanding, and hence the results are not as satisfactory as what we are promising. And last but not the least, do not promise 100%. Do not tell them that it's going to do autopilot on its own. That's one mistake that a lot of the teams do in setting the wrong expectations. You set the right expectation that it's more of an augmenter, not an automator. That's precisely what needs to be taken care of.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add something on the POCs bit. I think what's really exciting about the world that we are going into is that I believe that POCs are more likely to now succeed in the future. And the reason is because the cost of integration is going to decrease drastically. I think one of the biggest problems that we've had working with financial institutions is that the cost of integrating data, the cost of integrating solutions is just so high that becomes a big blocker for them to work with so many vendors. But I think with all of the digital transformation that is happening, that we've spoken about with things like data lakes, and in the future with things like MCP servers maybe being launched internally as well, I believe that the cost of integration will go down. So it's really going to be coming down to how good your product is, which is exactly what POCs can do given the right data set is selected. So I think that's something of a positive for the future.
Thank you. There's something positive for the future. So coming to the end of the panel, I would want to see if you guys can conclude or give the audience one takeaway on the key differentiator that you see in successfully adopting or implementing AI solutions for enterprise. Kanth?
Firstly, setting right expectations, choosing the right platforms, plan ahead for change management, build for scale, ensure your data is reliable, and also the continuity of the data quality is very important for a longer term successful solution. And last but not the least, whether you're regulated or not, in the current world of AI, you'll have a lot of agentic AI which can also attack your data estate and your environment as a whole, take care of the security as well as the regulations. It's quite essential because the cost of fixing things is far larger and far bigger than the initial cost of implementation.
Thank you. Thank you. Brian?
Yeah, so I believe that continuous learning is the key factor because let's say if we have AI integrated into your system now, it's not a one and for all solution. AI is evolving in a drastic speed right now. The solution we implement now may not be up to date 1 year later. So you have to continue to learn the latest trend in AI technologies, like attending forums like this to learn about the latest trend, and keep yourself up to date to the latest AI technology.
You can also attend AIHK events.
Definitely.
The one that I was.
Billy?
Yeah, we'll start attending to AIHK event. Well, I agree with Brian 100% because I believe in continuous adoption and continuous learning because you need to learn about this because AI is evolving every day, right? And if you just learn about it and if you don't adopt it, chances are you're going to toss it away the next day. So continuous adoption, continuous learning.
Thank you. Ankit?
Yeah, I think for enterprise transformation, I think it's really about choosing the right business problem. I think the same rules apply. You got to figure out what their priority is. You could be solving a problem, but if it's not going to be giving that ROI within that short term, it might not be the right timing. So, the right business problem.
Thank you all. So from this panel, we gather that implementing AI is not just a technical issue, it's not just technical hurdles, but there's a lot of other factors in play. Change management, continuous learning, adoption, and pinpointing the right model or the right question to solve. So I want to thank everyone for attending today, and thank you for our panelists for the meaningful sharing. And from AIHK, we'll continue to support your AI adoption journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha, and our panelists for the insightful sharing. Please remain on stage for photo taking.